You ever notice how women think men only pay attention to the big stuff? The looks, the hair, the outfit. Let me tell you something, men notice way more than that. We notice the way you carry yourself when you think no one's watching, the way you treat people who can't give you anything, the calm in your silence, the peace you bring instead of the chaos you create. It's not the makeup, it's the energy. It's not the outfit, it's the attitude. Because what truly makes a woman unforgettable isn't what she shows the world. It's what she radiates when the world's not watching. When a woman walks into a room, before she even says a word, before she smiles, before anyone knows her name, there's something that speaks louder than all of that. The way she carries herself. It's the energy that says, I'm comfortable in my own skin. And the truth is, men notice that. They notice when a woman doesn't need attention to feel valuable. When she doesn't adjust her personality depending on who's around. When her confidence isn't a performance but a presence. See, there's a difference between a woman who's trying to be seen and a woman who already knows her worth. The first one looks for validation. The second one gives it to herself. Men can sense that difference almost instantly. It's in the way she walks. Not rushed, not timid, not trying to prove anything. It's in the way she holds eye contact, not as a challenge, but as a quiet statement of self-assurance. That calm confidence doesn't scream, it doesn't demand, it simply exists. And because it's rare, it stands out. The way she carries herself when no one's watching is even more powerful. That's when the truth shows. When she's not dressed up, not surrounded by friends, not putting on a show. When she's alone in a coffee shop, reading, thinking, just existing. That's when her authenticity comes out. Men notice that. They notice how she sits with herself, whether she's restless in her own company or at peace with it. There's something magnetic about a woman who's not afraid of solitude. It tells a man that her happiness doesn't depend on him or anyone else, that she's already built something within herself that no one can take away. Confidence isn't always loud. Sometimes it's in subtle things, the posture, the tone of her voice, the small smile when someone tries to test her and she doesn't take the bait. It's in the restraint, the ability to walk away instead of trying to convince someone of her worth. Men notice when a woman doesn't chase validation, when she doesn't over-explain, when she doesn't compete, when she just exists with quiet strength. That's not arrogance, that's peace. And peace is powerful. A woman who carries herself with grace even when things don't go her way, who doesn't crumble under pressure, who doesn't lash out when she's misunderstood. That kind of composure is what separates her from the rest. Men notice that too. They see how she reacts when she's criticized, when someone talks over her, when life throws something unexpected. Because how she handles herself in chaos says more about her than how she shines in comfort. When she doesn't lose her integrity in frustration, that's what earns respect. The way she carries herself when no one's watching also shows how she treats herself. Men notice when a woman values her time, her peace, her body, and her growth. They notice when she has standards, not the kind built on ego, but on self-respect, when she says no without guilt, when she's selective with her energy, when she chooses quality over attention. That's not just maturity, that's power. And men who are grounded enough, who know themselves, they find that irresistible, because it shows she's done the work. She's not waiting for someone to complete her. She's already whole. It's not about perfection. It's about presence. When she walks in aware of who she is, she doesn't need to dominate the room. She already owns her space. She can make eye contact without fear, smile without agenda, and move through the world with the quiet confidence of someone who's not pretending. That authenticity is what makes her unforgettable, because men see through performance. They know when something's forced. What captures attention isn't the effort, it's the ease. Sometimes men will notice a woman who doesn't say much in a conversation but listens intently, who speaks when she has something meaningful to say. They notice how her energy doesn't shift depending on who's around, how she stays consistent, polite, respectful, grounded. That consistency builds trust. It tells them this woman isn't just acting confident for show, it's who she is. Her energy doesn't fluctuate with approval. That's what sets her apart. When she carries herself with kindness, not because she's trying to be liked, but because it's who she is, men see that too. They notice the way she treats herself after a mistake, whether she beats herself up or learns from it. They notice when she's patient with herself, when she's not chasing perfection, but progress. They notice the softness that comes from strength, the ability to be firm without being harsh, assertive without being rude. That kind of balance is rare, and it comes from a deep understanding of one's own worth. Even the smallest details, the way she stands, the way she laughs, the way she makes eye contact, they all say something about how she sees herself. A woman who believes in her own value doesn't shrink to make others comfortable, but she also doesn't inflate herself to feel significant. She's centered, and that center creates gravity. People feel it, and men especially notice it because it feels different. It's calm. It's sure. It's grounded in truth. Men notice when a woman doesn't gossip, doesn't complain, doesn't dwell on what's missing. They notice when she's focused, driven, passionate about something. It's not about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about being the one who moves with purpose. A woman who's building, who's growing, who's focused on her life. She naturally commands respect. She doesn't have to demand attention. She earns it by how she carries herself. There's something undeniably attractive about a woman who's both soft and strong, who can be gentle without being a pushover, and firm without losing her warmth. Men notice when she's balanced like that, when her confidence isn't armor but peace, because that peace comes from knowing who she is and refusing to be shaken by who others think she should be. The truth is, a woman who carries herself with quiet confidence doesn't just catch a man's eye, she earns his admiration. Because it tells him she's someone who's done the work, someone who's healed, someone who's not just living for attention, but for alignment. Her presence says she's not searching for worth, she's walking in it. And that kind of presence doesn't fade, it grows. Men notice the woman who can be alone without being lonely, who can walk away without anger, who can forgive without forgetting. They notice when her peace costs her nothing because she's not for sale. They notice when she carries herself with dignity, not because she's trying to impress, but because she respects herself too much to act otherwise. The way she carries herself when no one's watching is a reflection of the relationship she has with herself. And men can sense that before they ever speak to her. It's in the air around her, calm, confident, self-contained. She doesn't seek validation, she radiates value. She doesn't chase love, she attracts it naturally because she embodies it first. That's what men notice, not the outfit, not the makeup, not the performance. They notice the woman who doesn't need to be noticed to be valuable. The one who knows her worth in silence. The one who doesn't need the room to see her to know she belongs there. The one who carries herself like she already has everything she needs inside of her. How she treats people who can't give her anything, that's where her real character shows. Men notice that more than they'll ever say out loud, because how a woman treats someone who has nothing to offer her tells the truth about who she is when the spotlight's off. It's easy to be kind to the people who can benefit you. It's easy to be polite when you want something or when someone can open doors for you. But how she treats the server who got her order wrong, the cleaner, the delivery guy, or the stranger asking for directions. That's where her heart speaks without filters. Men pick up on those little moments. They notice when a woman doesn't roll her eyes, when someone makes a small mistake, when she says, "Thank you," and means it, when she doesn't act entitled, doesn't treat people as tools but as humans. That grace, that kindness, it's not something you can fake for long. It's part of her energy. And when a man sees that, it stays with him. Because that's the kind of kindness that can't be taught by trends or forced by manners. It's a reflection of empathy, and men feel that deeply. A woman who's respectful, regardless of who's watching, has a certain elegance about her that no amount of luxury or beauty can replace. Men notice when she doesn't change her tone depending on someone's status, when she speaks to everyone with the same level of respect, whether it's her boss or the barista. That consistency shows maturity. It tells a man this woman's character isn't conditional. She doesn't need to belittle others to feel significant. And that quiet humility, it speaks louder than anything she could say. There's a strength in kindness that people often overlook. Men notice when a woman chooses patience instead of arrogance, when she listens instead of interrupting, when she doesn't dismiss someone because they don't fit her standards. That doesn't make her naive, it makes her emotionally intelligent. It means she understands that respect says more about her than about anyone else. And a man who values substance sees that and feels it. The truth is, men can sense when kindness is genuine. They can tell when it's coming from a place of peace, not performance. When she's kind not to be liked, but because it's who she is. There's a difference between being nice to gain approval and being kind because it's her nature. The second kind doesn't disappear when she's angry, tired, or disappointed. It stays because it's rooted in character, not convenience. Men also notice how she reacts when she's ignored or overlooked. When she doesn't get immediate recognition, does she stay gracious or does her tone shift? That reaction says everything. A woman who treats people well, even when she's not the center of attention, that's rare. It's easy to smile when you're being praised. It's another thing to stay kind when you're not being noticed at all. That's the type of woman who stands out quietly. It's not about being soft or submissive. It's about self-control. Men respect a woman who doesn't let her emotions dictate her decency. When she doesn't talk down to people or create scenes over small inconveniences. When she can express herself firmly but respectfully. That kind of grace under pressure, that's power. It shows she has discipline, composure, and emotional strength. Sometimes the most revealing moments are small, like how she reacts when someone spills a drink near her or when a stranger bumps into her by accident. Does she respond with empathy or irritation? Those seconds tell a man everything he needs to know about the woman's emotional world. Because her behavior in minor moments often reflects how she'll handle major ones. If she's gracious in the small, she'll be graceful in the big. Men also notice how she treats her own friends, especially when things aren't going well. Does she support them when they fail, or does she disappear? Does she celebrate their wins without jealousy, or does she compete silently? Those dynamics don't go unnoticed, because they show whether her kindness is rooted in love or ego. A woman who genuinely lifts others up, who wants to see people win. That's the kind of spirit men are drawn to. Even how she speaks about people who aren't around matters. Men pay attention to that. When she doesn't gossip, when she doesn't tear people down just to make conversation, that's a huge sign of emotional maturity. It tells them she's trustworthy, that she won't turn her words into weapons behind someone's back. That kind of loyalty, that restraint is rare, and it commands respect without her ever demanding it. Kindness doesn't mean being naive. Men notice when a woman knows how to be kind and assertive. when she can say no firmly but respectfully, when she doesn't tolerate disrespect but doesn't return it with cruelty either. That balance is what separates real kindness from weakness. It's compassion with boundaries, empathy with strength. And men who are emotionally aware find that deeply attractive because it shows she's mastered herself. There's also a certain calm in women who don't treat life like a transaction, who don't help expecting something in return, who give compliments because they mean them, not because they're fishing for one back. Men notice that sincerity, the way her generosity feels effortless, when she gives time, attention, or encouragement without strings attached. It shows she operates from abundance, not scarcity. That energy is magnetic. Men are wired to observe subtle things, tone, gestures, attitude, especially in everyday interactions. They might not comment on it, but they remember how a woman made people feel around her. They remember the warmth in her smile, the patience in her words, the gratitude in her eyes. Those details paint a picture of who she really is, and long after the moment passes, that impression stays. A woman's real beauty isn't just in her face, it's in her spirit, in how she makes others feel seen and valued, even the ones who have nothing to offer her. That's the kind of beauty that doesn't fade. It's the kind men respect deeply, even if they can't fully explain why. It's the quiet confidence that comes from having empathy without agenda, strength without arrogance, and grace without effort. So when a woman treats everyone with dignity, not because they've earned it, but because she's grounded enough to give it, that's when she stands apart. That's when men take notice. Because the way she treats people who can't give her anything reveals something priceless. She's already rich in character. The confidence in her boundaries and silence, that's something men notice long before words ever come into play. There's a quiet strength in a woman who knows when to speak and when not to, who doesn't rush to fill every silence, who isn't afraid of letting her absence speak louder than her presence. Men notice that calm restraint. It's not coldness, it's control. It's the kind of composure that says, I'm not here to prove anything. Because a woman who's confident in her boundaries doesn't beg for understanding. She commands it simply by the way she carries herself. Boundaries are not walls, they're gates. They don't shut people out. They show who's mature enough to come in. And men notice when a woman understands that difference. When she's not rude, but she's not easily manipulated either. When she doesn't confuse kindness with access. She can care, she can be warm, but she's also not available to everyone all the time. That balance between compassion and control is something powerful men respect deeply because it shows discipline, self-awareness, and emotional security. Men pay attention when a woman doesn't chase after disrespect, when she's not afraid to walk away from what disturbs her peace, when she doesn't explain herself to people who have already shown they don't listen. That silence, it's not weakness, it's wisdom. It's the kind of quiet that comes from experience, from knowing that reacting gives power away, and that peace is far louder than anger. Men who are emotionally mature recognize that kind of silence as strength, not indifference. A woman with boundaries knows her worth, and it shows in how she responds to pressure. When someone tries to guilt trip her, she doesn't fold. When someone tests her patience, she doesn't explode. She stands firm, calm, measured, and certain. Men notice that steadiness. It's the kind of poise that separates a woman who's grounded from one who's still seeking validation. Because when you've learned your own value, you stop negotiating it. And men feel that energy immediately. It's not about how loud she can be. It's about how centered she is. Men notice when she doesn't over-explain, when she doesn't beg to be understood, when she doesn't argue with people committed to misunderstanding her. She lets her silence do the talking. And that silence isn't emptiness. it's a mirror. It forces others to confront themselves. That's what true confidence looks like. It's not about dominating a room. It's about owning your peace no matter who's in it. Men also notice when a woman says no without a tremor in her voice, when she doesn't soften her truth just to keep someone comfortable. That kind of confidence doesn't come from arrogance. It comes from clarity. She knows what she stands for, and she's not afraid of losing people who don't respect that. Men notice that firmness because it shows she values herself too much to be swayed by flattery or pressure. And that self-respect is magnetic. There's a kind of woman who doesn't respond to every text, doesn't attend every argument, doesn't defend herself in every misunderstanding, not because she's detached, but because she's evolved. She knows that peace costs too much to waste on small battles. Men notice that maturity. It's not about playing games. It's about emotional intelligence. When she doesn't feed negativity, when she doesn't explain her silence, when she doesn't perform for attention, that restraint is what sets her apart. Men also notice when her silence isn't empty, but intentional. When she pauses before reacting, when she thinks before speaking, that control, that deliberate calm, speaks volumes. It shows she's not driven by impulse, but by principle. And men who value depth see that as the mark of someone who's done inner work, someone who's learned that power doesn't always need to be loud. Boundaries aren't just what she says no to. They're also what she says yes to. Men notice when a woman protects her energy, when she doesn't overcommit just to please others, when she guards her time like it matters, because it does. That kind of self-respect commands attention. It tells a man she's not desperate for company, she's selective about what adds value to her life. And that selectiveness creates an aura of quiet authority. Men also notice how she sets emotional boundaries. When she doesn't take everything personally. When she doesn't absorb other people's moods. When she can listen without losing herself in the process. That emotional distance isn't cold, it's healthy. It shows she knows how to protect her inner world from chaos. And men see that as rare, because most people live in reaction. A woman who lives in control of her reactions, that's a woman in her power. The confidence in her silence also shows up in conflict. Men notice when she doesn't scream, doesn't insult, doesn't resort to chaos. When she takes a breath, steps back, and chooses grace over drama. That composure doesn't come from suppression, it comes from mastery. It tells a man she's not ruled by emotion, but guided by intention. And that kind of emotional maturity is deeply attractive because it brings peace, not tension. Men remember the women who can walk away without creating a scene, the ones who can end a conversation with dignity instead of destruction. The ones who can be silent, not because they have nothing to say, but because they've already said what needed to be said. That kind of ending sticks with people, because it's not loud, but it's powerful. Silence leaves space, and in that space, truth echoes louder. The way she protects her peace tells men everything they need to know about how she'll handle a relationship. A woman who respects her boundaries respects others. She won't suffocate, she won't cling, she won't demand control. She'll communicate with clarity, love with freedom, and walk away when things become one-sided. That steadiness is what men who are secure in themselves look for. Not chaos, not noise, but calm confidence. Men notice when her silence has weight, when she's not talking to prove herself, when she's not performing to be accepted, when her energy says, "I'm fine whether you stay or not." That independence isn't harsh, it's peaceful. It tells them she's already full, already complete, already in tune with herself. And that's the kind of woman who doesn't get shaken by temporary things, because her peace isn't built on people, it's built on principles. There's something deeply captivating about a woman who doesn't try to control how others see her. Who's okay with being misunderstood? Who lets her actions do the explaining? Men notice that kind of inner quiet because it's rare in a world obsessed with proving, posting, and performing. It's the kind of confidence that makes people curious. The less she says, the more they want to know. The truth is, the confidence in her boundaries and silence reveals emotional depth. It shows she's learned the art of letting go, of not forcing outcomes, of protecting her peace without guilt. Men notice that because it's uncommon. It's the kind of strength that doesn't need to announce itself. It's felt. She doesn't chase validation. She radiates security. She doesn't fear solitude. She thrives in it. And that kind of quiet, steady confidence, that's what makes her unforgettable. The peace she brings instead of the chaos she creates, that's something men feel before they even realize it. It's in her energy, her tone, the way she walks into a room, and somehow everything just feels calmer. Men notice when a woman carries that kind of peace. It's not loud, it's not forced, it's not fake positivity. It's a steady kind of stillness, the kind that comes from someone who's been through storms and learned not to become one. Because peace isn't the absence of noise, it's the ability to stay centered when everything else is loud. Men notice when a woman doesn't thrive on drama, when she doesn't make every misunderstanding a battle, every mistake a meltdown. There's a maturity in that kind of woman that sets her apart. She doesn't need chaos to feel alive. She's already grounded in her purpose. Her peace comes from within, not from attention, not from control, not from validation. And that makes her presence feel safe. Because men, whether they admit it or not, crave peace more than excitement. They may chase thrill, but they build with calm. The peace she brings shows up in the little things: how she speaks, how she listens, how she reacts. When something upsets her, she doesn't rush to blame. She pauses, processes, and responds with clarity. That composure tells a man she's not here to compete for control, but to communicate with purpose. And men notice that, because in a world full of loud voices and short tempers, a woman who stays calm without being cold stands out. She's strong without being harsh, soft without being weak. Men also notice when her peace doesn't depend on them, when she's already whole before she enters a relationship, when she doesn't expect someone else to fill her emptiness or fix her mood. That independence is magnetic because it shows she's not looking for a rescuer, she's looking for a partner. And that kind of woman doesn't drain energy. She brings it. She doesn't take from the room, she adds to it. Her peace makes everything around her feel lighter. A peaceful woman doesn't mean she's passive. She sets boundaries. She says no when she needs to, but she does it with grace. She doesn't fight to prove her power. She shows it through control. Men notice when she doesn't argue to be right, when she can disagree without disrespect. That balance of strength and serenity is rare. It's not about dominance. It's about emotional intelligence. She knows when to speak and when to let silence do the work. That emotional discipline is what makes her unforgettable. There's something magnetic about a woman who doesn't need to win every argument, who can say, "I understand your side," even when she doesn't agree, who doesn't need chaos to feel connected. Men notice that emotional steadiness. It makes them feel seen, not judged, safe, not suffocated. When a woman can hold space for peace, a man feels like he can finally breathe. That kind of calm isn't weakness. It's healing energy. Men notice when she's not addicted to reaction, when she doesn't gossip, doesn't explode, doesn't punish with silence. Instead, she chooses understanding over ego. That doesn't mean she tolerates disrespect. It means she knows how to handle it with dignity. She can step back without shutting down, communicate without attacking, and move on without resentment. That's a rare kind of peace, the kind that's earned, not inherited. Even in the smallest moments, her peace shows, in the way she doesn't rush, in how she listens more than she talks, in how her presence doesn't demand attention, yet everyone feels it. Men remember women who bring calm to chaos, not noise to quiet. Because that peace isn't just attractive, it's addictive. It's the kind of energy that makes a man want to protect it, not disturb it. Men also notice when she protects her peace like it's sacred, when she doesn't entertain toxicity, when she walks away from gossip, drama, and people who drain her energy. That kind of discipline tells a man she values her spirit too much to be careless with it. She's not hard to get, she's hard to disturb. And that makes her different. Because anyone can be beautiful, but not everyone can be peaceful. There's a quiet confidence in women who bring calm instead of chaos. They don't panic when plans fall apart. They adapt. They don't control people. They trust the process. That kind of surrender doesn't come from weakness. It comes from faith. Men notice when a woman can flow through life without trying to force everything into place, because it shows she's anchored in something deeper than the moment. She doesn't live in reaction, she lives in alignment. When a woman carries peace, people feel safe around her. Men especially feel that difference, because she's not unpredictable, not volatile. Her love doesn't feel like walking on eggshells, it feels like coming home. Her words don't wound, they guide. Her silence doesn't punish, it heals. That's the kind of woman who's unforgettable. Not because she's loud or flashy, but because she brings something the world rarely gives: calm. Men notice when she chooses to stay kind, even when it's not easy. When she can express hurt without hostility or disappointment without destruction. That kind of self-control doesn't come naturally, it comes from self-awareness. And that's what makes her presence peaceful. Because peace isn't just what she brings, it's what she's built. It's the product of healing, forgiveness, and letting go of what no longer deserves her reaction. Men also notice how her peace changes a room. When she's around, tension fades. Conversations feel smoother. Even silence feels comfortable. She doesn't demand space, she fills it with grace. That kind of energy doesn't compete, it completes. And men don't forget women like that because they don't just look beautiful. They feel beautiful to be around. The peace she brings instead of the chaos she creates shows her emotional maturity. It tells a man she's mastered herself. Her reactions, her emotions, her energy. She doesn't let her pain define her. She doesn't let the world pull her out of character. She's steady, grounded, centered. And that calm doesn't just make her attractive, it makes her rare. Because anyone can look good, but not everyone can feel good to be around. Men notice when her presence makes things easier, not harder, when she simplifies, not complicates, when she understands instead of assuming, when she creates warmth instead of tension. That's what peace looks like, not perfection, but presence. She doesn't drain energy, she restores it. She doesn't create storms, she calms them. And that's what men remember long after she's gone. Not what she looked like, but how she made everything around her feel safe, clear, and calm.